Okay, let's unpack this. The situation between India and Pakistan, well, it's taken a really dramatic turn. Probably the most serious escalation we've seen in, gosh, decades. Arguably since '71.
It really seems that way. And it looks like this all stems from that terrible attack on tourists last month.
Yeah, and the immediate aftermath has just been this flurry of claims, downed aircraft, retaliatory strikes. It's a lot to take in.
It is. And for you, the listener, this deep dive is really about trying to get beyond those initial headlines.
Right.
We want to understand what's being reported, what we can maybe verify, and just get a clearer sense of this fast-moving situation.
And what's striking is the range of perspectives, the different stories coming out.
Exactly. So our main sources for this are CNN's live updates, mostly from Wednesday, May 7th and Thursday, May 8th, 2025.
And we're aiming to give you a concise understanding, the critical info, the different accounts, the potential fallout, without drowning you in every single detail.
Yeah, our mission here is to pull out the essential bits, look at the claims from both sides, and try to understand what this could all mean.
Okay.
So the crucial starting point, I think, is understanding what initially triggered this latest spike.
Right, and it seems the catalyst was the killing of over 24 tourists. This happened in Indian-controlled Kashmir last month.
A terrible incident. And India has accused Pakistan of being involved.
Which Pakistan has strongly denied.
Yes, denied completely. So following that, on Wednesday, India launched what they're calling Operation Sindoor.
Operation Sindoor.
Their stated goal was targeting what they described as terrorist infrastructure.
And these strikes happened where exactly?
Well, reports say they were in Pakistan-administered Kashmir that shares the border with the Indian side and also deeper inside Pakistan in their Punjab province.
Okay, so not just contained to the immediate border area.
No. And Pakistan's response to this, they're saying these Indian actions led to significant civilian casualties.
How many?
They're claiming at least 31 civilians were killed in those strikes, which is obviously a very different picture of India's operation.
Starkly different. And of course, the firing across the de facto border, the line of control,
Yeah.
that hasn't been just one way either.
No, absolutely not. India's defense ministry reported that shelling from Pakistan killed at least 16 civilians on the Indian side of the loss.
So tragically, it's civilians on both sides caught in the middle,
Wow.
bearing the immediate cost of this.
Yes. And then you have Pakistan vowing retaliation.
Right.
They're claiming they inflicted pretty significant casualties on the Indian military along that same line of control.
What kind of numbers are they claiming?
They specifically stated killing between 40 and 50 Indian soldiers. Again, a claim.
40 to 50. Wow. And then there's the aerial dimension, which seems particularly significant this time.
Very significant.
Okay.
Pakistan is making some major claims about shooting down 25 Indian drones inside their airspace.
25. And they've even identified some types.
Yes, they mentioned Israeli-made Harop drones specifically.
Okay, Harops. For you listening, these aren't just surveillance drones. They're loitering munitions.
Exactly. They can hang around and then dive onto a target, sometimes called flying bombs.
A serious piece of kit. And Pakistan says they have debris.
They claim to have recovered debris in various places near Rawalpindi, where their military HQ is, down near Karachi, near Lahore, too.
And casualties reported from this drone activity.
They reported 4 soldiers wounded near Lahore, and sadly, 1 civilian killed in the Sindh province.
And the claims about manned aircraft, that seemed like a major escalation point.
A huge claim. Pakistan's foreign minister announced their military-used Chinese-made J-10C fighters
Yeah, 10Ts, okay.
to shoot down 5 Indian fighter jets. 5.
5. Which types?
They listed 3 Rafales, 1 MiG-29 and 1 Su-30. The Rafale, of course, is a very modern, capable French jet used by India.
Downing Rafales would be a massive claim. Is there any corroboration?
Well, this is where it gets murky, but interesting. A French intelligence official did confirm to CNN that 1 Rafale was shot down.
One confirmed.
1 confirmed. And they said they're investigating possible further losses. So that lends some weight, at least partial weight, to Pakistan's claims.
Okay. And China's role in this? They supply Pakistan's jets, like the J-10s.
Right. China is urging de-escalation from both sides. As Pakistan's main arms supplier, their position is definitely important here. They have significant influence.
Sure. And Pakistan also claimed other actions.
Yes, their information minister said their forces had, quote, blown up Indian military installations along the de facto border. So suggesting a pretty broad response.
Okay, now let's flip to India's side. How are they framing this?
Well, India stated they targeted air defense systems inside Pakistan.
Their defense systems.
Yes. And significantly, they explicitly linked this to what they alleged were Pakistani missile and drone attacks aimed at Indian military targets.
So that's a shift, right? India confirming they're hitting Pakistani military targets, not just alleged terrorist sites.
Exactly. It's the first time they've confirmed that directly in this exchange, signaling a more direct military-to-military confrontation.
And what's the messaging from the top in India?
Prime Minister Modi called for continued alertness and also clear communication, which suggests, high alert but maybe keeping channels open.
Perhaps. And the defense minister.
He stated their military operation remains ongoing, so indicating this isn't necessarily over.
But what about the jets? Pakistan claims 5 downed. French intelligence confirms 1 Rafale. What is India saying about that?
This is where it's really striking. The Indian embassy in China flatly dismissed the reports of downed jets as disinformation.
Disinformation.
Yeah, they even pointed to photos circulating online claiming they were old, misleading images.
But nothing from the main government or military in Delhi about the jets.
Silence. Noticeable silence on that specific, very serious claim from Pakistan. It creates this huge gap in information.
It really does. A stark difference in communication strategies. Pakistan, very vocal. India, much more reserved on that point.
And this brings us back, unfortunately, to the human cost, which is undeniable regardless of the claims.
We mentioned the casualties earlier. Pakistan reporting at least 31 civilians dead. India 16. Devastating numbers.
Absolutely. And the personal stories really bring it home. Like Safer Ahmadawan in Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
His daughter was injured.
Yes, his 15-year-old daughter injured when shelling hit a mosque near their home. And his anger, accusing India of targeting civilians, places of worship.
You can understand the fear and the anger on the ground. We heard from a tailor, too.
Javed Alam, yeah. Expressing this sense of desperation, almost like only direct action can solve things. It shows the mood.
And people are being displaced by this.
Definitely. Reports from both sides of the loss show residents fleeing their homes, seeking shelter in designated safe houses.
And in Indian-administered Kashmir, similar scenes.
Yes, residents describing just fear, constant overnight shelling, evacuations, people spending nights in bunkers just trying to stay safe.
Sounds terrifying. Now, there was also a report of a crash inside India.
Yes, in India's Punjab state. An unidentified aircraft reportedly crashed around the same time Pakistan was claiming the shootdowns.
Unidentified.
Eyewitnesses and a local official reported a crash, mentioning at least 1 death and some injuries.
But no official confirmation from India on this crash, or wide reporting.
Not that we've seen in these sources. Very little official word or media coverage within India about that specific incident, which is curious.
Adds to the fog, doesn't it? What about the international reaction?
Well, the UN General Assembly president voiced serious concern, called for de-escalation, dialogue, the usual diplomatic language, but important nonetheless.
And a UN team went to that mosque site.
Yes, they visited the site in Muzaffarabad that Pakistan claims India targeted.
Any specific countries taking sides?
We're seeing some existing relationships play out. Pakistan's PM thanked Turkey's President Erdogan for his support.
Okay.
And Turkey formally condemned India's actions, echoing Pakistan's call for an investigation into that initial tourist attack.
So diplomatic alignments holding firm. And this must be impacting travel, right? Airspace closures.
Massively. Pakistan's airspace has been opening and closing repeatedly. India closed, I think, 21 airports across the north at one point.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, huge disruption. International airlines are actively rerouting flights around Pakistani airspace now. It's affecting global travel.
Okay, stepping back for a second. For you listening, it helps to remember the history here. This isn't happening in a vacuum.
Absolutely not. The Kashmir dispute goes right back to 1947, partition. 3 major wars fought over it. It's a deep, deep-rooted conflict.
So looking ahead, what are Pakistan's potential next moves?
Well, they could try to claim victory based on these alleged shootdowns, whether fully verified or not. That's one path.
Propaganda victory, maybe?
Could be. Or they might pursue further retaliatory strikes. The key question there would be military targets or, God forbid, civilian ones.
And the army chief's stance matters.
Potentially, yes. The current Pakistani army chief is seen as perhaps more assertive, which could influence their calculations.
But at the end of the day, both sides have nuclear weapons. Surely they want to avoid all-out war.
That's the prevailing analysis, that despite the rhetoric, despite the strikes, Both India and Pakistan are fundamentally rational actors,
Yeah.
meaning they likely understand the catastrophic costs of a full-scale war and ultimately want to avoid it, especially given the nuclear dimension.
Let's hope that holds true. But it highlights this fog of war problem, doesn't it? Verifying anything is so hard.
Incredibly hard. These claims about the downed jets, the nature of the air combat, was it dogfighting, long-range missiles, we just don't have clear, independent confirmation.
Especially for Pakistan's claim of downing multiple jets. That French confirmation covers one, maybe hints at more, but the full claim
Remains unverified. There's just a lack of concrete, independent evidence presented so far for the full scale of those claims. It really shows how information itself becomes a weapon in these situations.
Okay, so let's try to summarize the key takeaways for you, the listener.
Right. I think first is the serious escalation, clearly triggered by that tourist massacre. Second, the completely conflicting stories from both sides about what happened next. The strikes, the casualties, the alleged shoot-downs.
Third, the undeniable tragic impact on civilians caught in the crossfire and displaced from their homes.
Fourth, the international concern and calls for restraint. And fifth, just the sheer uncertainty surrounding so many of these reported events. The fog is thick.
For me, a real aha moment, if you can call it that in this context, is just seeing how dependent we are on these claims and counterclaims. It really hammers home the challenge of understanding conflict in real time. And that contrast, Pakistan broadcasting its alleged wins, India being much quieter, especially on the jet issue, it's fascinating information warfare.
It is. And the relevance for everyone, even outside the region, is clear. The human cost is immediate and real.
Yeah.
And any instability between two nuclear-armed neighbors has potential ripple effects, even if both leaderships are trying, hopefully.
So a final thought perhaps to leave you with. Given this long history, this current climate of, frankly, unverifiable information flying around, what are the real long-term prospects for peace and stability in Kashmir?
That's the huge question, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe think about the role international actors might play or fail to play, and how much domestic politics, internal pressures within both India and Pakistan drive these cycles of conflict. Something to mull over.